Utah lawmakers face an unusual budgetary situation this year. They'll be facing a surplus and a shortfall at the same time. House Speaker Greg Hughes sat down with us for a frank discussion on how your tax dollars will be divvied up.
This is going into my 14th session, and typically we'll either have, and there's probably been more surplus years than shortfall years, but this is the only year that I remember where we have both.
The education fund, which comes from state income taxes, is up this year. That's where the surplus lies. But the general fund will be flat. That means no new dollars coming in.
When you talk about general fund dollars, we're not going to see new dollars in that area, and that really funds a lot of the things that touch our cities and our counties. And so I think that the expectations about what we can do as a state or what we would spend money on have to be kind of adjusted by what we're seeing in terms of general fund dollars arriving from taxpayers for this upcoming session. So we've got some challenges. That's a year when you have a year where you're not seeing new money, then the competition for those finite resources grow, and lawmakers get into this scenario where they're not throwing out the dumb ideas on what to fund and funding all the good ideas. You have to walk away from some pretty important things because you've prioritized some other critical areas higher. And that's always tough for lawmakers, but that's kind of the season that this legislative session will be in, is one that there's not really new money in the general fund. Education, there's some surplus. So having it both, Susan, where one's in surplus and one's kind of flat or in shortfall, that doesn't usually happen. So that's kind of a rare occurrence, and so one worth noting.
While the budgetary situation typically differs from year to year, there is one thing that remains practically certain. There will be more requests for funds than there will be money available.
You have $1 billion in surplus, you'll have $3 billion in earnest requests, and not bad ones that you could move the needle and do great things if you had the resources to do. So we're always kind of in that, as lawmakers, into that struggle of how to prioritize the most critical areas of state government, or where we think we can be most impactful with what we do appropriate. It just gets harder when you don't have any new money in an area where the cities and counties, with their legislative agendas, if there is a fiscal note or an appropriation looked at, it'll be a high competition, probably more so than in typical years.
With a look ahead at the 2016 legislative session, I'm Susan Wood with the Utah League of Cities and Towns.